Okay, welcome to Unit 4, Lesson 4.2b. So now we are finding the shaded areas. So some of these objects are going to be multiple objects that we have to subtract, and some are going to be multiple objects combined that we have to add. So in the first two here that we see for A and B, we need to take the area of a large object, subtract the area of a small object. So here we go. The first one is our large circle, and the shape 2 is going to be our small circle. So that means we're going to go r squared times pi, because that's the area of a circle, r squared times pi. Now, you guys can't see it on yours, but this number right here is a 3. So if I connect that to this one right here, that's a 4, how long is this whole area? How long would that one be? What would the 4 plus 3 be? That would be 7. So that means in our large object, our r is 7. So I'm going to go 7 squared times pi. So all we're doing is plugging in the numbers that we get from the pictures, and we're putting them in our formulas. So we all know that area of a circle is r squared times pi. That's what we're doing. I'm writing it that way because that's the way you have to put it in the calculator. Usually on the formula sheets it says pi r squared. All right, so that's going to be 49 times pi, which gives us 153.9 meters squared. Okay, so we have the large object. Now we're going to get the small object. So our small circle, it has a radius of 4. So we're going to go 4 squared times pi. And that's going to give us 50.3 meters squared. Now, since I only want the shaded area, I'm going to go back to the top and I'm going to take my large, subtract my small. So I'm going to get 153.9 subtracting 50.3. And that's going to give us a grand total of 103.6 meters squared. That would be our grand total. So a question like this would be out of 2.5 or 3 marks. Okay? So you have to solve each of them and then either add them or subtract them depending on the situation. So again, you find your area of a circle, use your formula, solve each object, and then you either add them or subtract them. You will always be given the formulas. You never have to memorize them. Okay, I'll just give you a minute to write that down. When we look at object B, we have a square and a circle inside a square. So what they're not showing us is the radius because they expect us to figure it out. The radius is going to be half of that line. And if that line is 5, how big would the radius be? If all the way across is 5, how much is halfway? Cut 5.5. So you're going to get 2.5. Okay, so your radius ends up being 2.5. Get used to labeling your diagrams. All right. So the shape 1, we're going to do the square. So area of my square, length times width, or you can do side squared if you'd like. That's going to be 5 times 5 to give me 25 hectometers squared. Then I'm going to do my area of a circle. All right, area of our circle is going to be r squared times pi. And we know r squared is 2.5 squared times pi. That's going to give us 19.6 hectometers squared. So now this time, instead of adding them together, I need to subtract them. So our total area for shaded is going to be 25 minus 19.6. And that will be our total shaded area, which gives us 5.4. Use your units, hectometers squared. Okay, so we get 5.4 hectometers squared. Okay, so again, 2.5, 3 marks. You find each object and you either add it or you subtract it, depending on what the object looks like. This object is a triangle and 3/4 of a circle. So that's what we've actually got. We've got a triangle and 3/4 of a circle. So the first thing we're going to do is we've got a circle, an area of a circle is r squared times pi. But we've got 3/4 of a circle. So how do I take 3/4 of something? You times it by the decimal. What would 3/4 as a decimal be? 3 divided by 4, 0.75. So we're going to times this by 0.75. This means it's a 3/4. Whoa, that's sketching out there. Hang on. This tells me it's 3/4 of a circle. That's what it means. Okay, that 0.75. It's 0.75 of a circle. So my r squared, you guys can't see it on your picture, but it's a 4 centimeters. So r squared is 4 squared times pi times 0.75. That's a whole bunch in a row. So 4 squared times pi times 0.75. All right, we should get 37.7. 37.7 centimeters squared. The second shape is a triangle. Now your triangle is going to be base times height divide 2. Base times height divide 2. And when we've got a right triangle like that, attached to the 90, we've got our base and our height. That's where we find base and height for one of those questions. So if it's a radius of a circle, well, that means he's 4. His base and his height is the same because it's a radius of a circle. So that means we've got this. We've got 4 times 4 divide 2. Okay, so we've got 4 times 4 divide 2. That's going to give us 16 divide 2 is 8 centimeters squared. Now, this time to get our total area, both objects are shaded and it wants the shaded area. That means we're going to add them together. So our total is going to be this triangle plus the circle. So we're going to get 37.7 plus 8. Where's my plus sign here? Plus 8. There we go. Plus 8. That's going to give us 45. Whoa.
Oh.
That's going to give us 45.7. 45.7 centimeters squared is our total final answer. 45.7. Okay, turn your page. So in this case, both objects were shaded. That's why we added them together, because both objects were shaded. Because the whole idea of this is to have our shaded object. All right, turn the page. Now, are both of these Ready to go? Excellent. Let's take a look at the guy on the left. So this is called a pentagon. So first of all, shape 1 is a pentagon. It's 5 sides. Okay. And then shape 2, we have 2 circles. Okay, so we have 2 circles. So our pentagon, whenever you find the area of a shape that's bigger than a square, so 5 sides, 6 sides, 7 sides, 8 sides, if it's a regular polygon, you're going to find area of a triangle times the number of sides. And the reason we do that is because we can take each of these objects. Oh, that's a really bad pentagon. Hang on. I'll see if I can pull a pentagon out. Does this have pentagons here? Yeah, it does. Perfect. Okay, so if I pull a pentagon out, on that pentagon, if I take a look, each one of these can be created and drawn like spokes of a tire to create triangles. The same thing happens if it's 6 sides, 7 sides, 8 sides. So anything bigger than 4 sides. So what you do is it's going to be area of a triangle times the number of sides. That's how you do regular pentagons. So sorry, regular polygons. So if it had 8 sides, like a stop sign, you'd do area of a triangle times 8. Okay, and that's how you would do those ones. So let's do this pentagon question. All right. For our pentagon, I'm going to draw my triangle right here and my height of my triangle. You guys can't see it, but it's a 12.4. That's what the height is. 12.4. It's shaded in black, so you guys can't actually see it, but it's saying the height of that triangle is 12.4. And for all of these, when you're doing pentagons or any polygon, you need their base and their height. So my base is the side length. Okay, the base equals the side length. Okay, so the number of sides. So here we go for our area. Our base is 18 times the height, 12.4. Divide that by 2. Then times by the number of sides. Then you're going to times it by 5. Now, if you wanted to times it by 5 on top, then divide by 2, that's totally okay. So we could have put times 5, and actually I'm going to write it that way. I'll just extend my line and write it that way for you. So I'll extend my line and say times 5, because you can do it all in one step. So this number on the very end, that one right there, that's the number of sides of the object. Okay, so 5 sides. If it had 10 sides, you'd times it by 10. All right, we're going to do all that multiplying, and that's going to give us 558, and it's centimeters squared. Let's confirm. Okay, so 558. Now we're going to deal with the circles. So we have 2 circles. We have to subtract the circles. But area of any circle is going to be r squared times pi. So r squared times pi. And then we have 2 of them. So times 2 circles. So if we look at the object, if I look at my circle, I see the number 9. What does 9 represent, the radius or diameter? It's the diameter because it's all the way across. If it's all the way across, we got to cut that in half because we only want the radius. So the radius for this guy is going to be half of that, which is 4.5. So we would like our multiplying would look like 4.5 squared times pi times 2. Now this one you will get decimals because pi is a run-on decimal. So again, when you get decimals, we round to 1 decimal point. So area of our circles should give us 127.2 centimeters squared. Now in this case, we are going to subtract them. So we're going to take the pentagon, subtract. So pentagon, subtract circle is what we're doing. Okay, so the pentagon subtract circle. So we're going to have 558 subtract 127.2. And that's going to be our grand total. And that's going to be 430.8 centimeters squared. So 430.8 centimeters squared. So don't forget your units, folks. All right. What does the next object look like? What does that object look like on the right? We can only see half of it. So what would this object started as? What would it have been looking like to start with? Well, I could do this and this and this. So what shape would that be? How many sides do you think that started with? It would have started with 6 sides. It's a hexagon. So this is half of a hexagon. So half of a hexagon. And a hexagon is 6 sides. You don't have to remember the names of them. If you don't remember, it's okay. But you should know them. So we want half of a hexagon, and then shape 2 is half circle. Okay, half circle. All right, we're going to deal with our hexagon first. So hexagon. Let me see here. Hexagon. So we're going to have base 4 times height. We got to find height. Times how many sides? 6 sides. Divide 2. And then we're going to cut that in half even more. So instead of dividing by 2, could I divide by 4? Yes, you could. So divide by 2 and then the whole thing divide by 2. Okay. Now what's my height? That's what we got to figure out. So if I make my triangle right here like this, we got to figure out the height right there. Well, it needs to show us the slant height, and it's showing us the slant height right here. So this is one of my triangle slant heights right here. I'm going to show you with my shading. So this right here is one triangle. We have 6 of them. So in that one triangle, the slant height is this far. This is called slant height. Okay. Okay, so on this one, we have to find out how long that line is. So that would be called the slant height. Well, what's half of 6? What's half of 6? 3. So there's 3 there and 3 there. So that means the slant height of this triangle is 5.5. So this line here is a 5.5. I've got to find H. So to find H, I'm going to go square root 5.5 squared, subtract 2 squared. No, we'll do 4. No, we have to do 2. Sorry. It's 2. Okay. So 5.5 squared minus 2 squared, square root it. That's going to give a height of, yeah, this is a 5.5. And then we end up with a height of 5.1. So we're doing 2. The reason we're doing 2 is because we're taking half. We're only finding out half of that triangle. So this right here, we're only finding half of it at the moment. Okay? So we will double it, but we're finding half at the moment. Because the only reason we needed to do that was to find the vertical height. So now we found the vertical height was 5.1. That's the number that goes there, 5.1. Because that's your base times your height times the number of sides, 6 sides, divide 2, and then divide 2 again. Okay, so it's a big formula for this one.
It's a lot of math.
It's a lot of mathing for this one. This part here is area of a triangle times 6 sides, but we only have half of that hexagon, so we got to divide it by 2. Okay, once we do get this, we're going to get 4 times 5.
Are we doing the whole
6
today?
2. We should get 30.6. This is going to give me 30.6. Yeah. Okay, so the first one we know is our hexagon. So here we're going to have 30.6 subtract our circle. So now we got to find that half circle. So the radius is 3. So we're going to go r squared, 3 squared times pi, and then it's only half, so we're going to divide it by 2. Okay, so 3 squared times pi, divide it by 2. We're going to get 14.1. So we have to subtract 14.1. So we are going to get 16.5. And this is in meters, so meters squared. Okay, so we did our half of a hexagon, then we did half of a circle, and it's the half hexagon subtract the half circle. That's what that one is. Okay, in this case, we're subtracting because only part of it's shaded. I'll let you write that down. What this one is a half large circle. So we have a half circle here, another half baby circle, then a half baby circle. If I take both of those small circles and put them together, would it make one full circle? Yes. So we've got a large half circle and then a full small circle. So shape 1 is a large circle and it's only a half, so we're divided by 2. So the number they show us here, diameter is 12. So if our diameter is 12, how much is halfway across? 6, good. So that means radius is 6. This is for the big one. So we're going to have r squared, 6 squared times pi divide 2. Why am I dividing it by 2? Because it's only half a circle. Exactly. And that's going to give us 226.2 centimeters squared. Okay, so we've got the half. What's that? Okay, which part?
Like, what's the diameter of that big circle?
The big circle they're telling us is a 12.
Lord.
So this is a 12 centimeters.
To the line?
What's that?
Like that's from one side of the circle to the other side?
Yeah, of the big one, yeah.
Why do we think it's 12?
Because in
That's the
Photoshop,
number.
it's 24.
You can't see it. It's covered over and it didn't show through, but it's a 12.
Oh, because I thought it would, how come it says 24?
Oh, because I didn't read it properly? Okay, thank you for that. So that means R is 12, not diameter. Thank you for that. So R is 12, not 6. Darn good thing someone's paying attention. So R is 12. Good thing. Because 24 is all the way across, so half is half of that. Half of 24 is 12. Yeah. It froze. Okay. The large circle, the radius is 12. Small circle, radius is 6. So I've got my small circle, and it's a full circle this time. We don't have to divide by 2 because I can put 1/2 onto the other half. So this guy's going to be 6 squared times pi. No dividing by 2. And that's going to give us 113.1 centimeters squared. Now we add them together. So our total is both added together, 226.2 plus 113.1. And that's going to give us 339.3 centimeters squared. So that's the area of those circles. 339.3 centimeters squared. Okay, I'll give you a minute to write that down, and then we're going to work on the next part. On the next part, we've got half of a rectangle, and then we have half circle. Okay, so shape 1 is a rectangle. We need length times width. Shape 2 is a circle divided by 2. It's a half circle. So the first one, the length we know is 9. We don't know the width yet, but if I do my circle, we'll figure out the width. So let's take a look at our circle. We need to go r squared times pi and divide it by 2 because it's only a half circle. What is my r if I know 9 goes all the way across? How big would r be if 9 goes all the way across? You have $9 and you got to cut it in half. How much would it be? 4.5. So that means your radius of the small one is 4.5. So we're going to have 4.5 squared times pi divide 2. So that 4.5 shows us that's our radius here. Radius is half of that, 4.5. Well, that 4.5 then is on this side and it's on this side. So that means I have my length and my width now. So now my width is that 4.5. It comes down. So sometimes the numbers aren't there to begin with, but you can figure them out by doing the question. So to figure out my rectangle now, I'm going to get 40.5 decimeters squared. And my half circle is going to give me 31.8 decimeters squared. Now, are they both shaded? Do I add them together? No. we want the shaded area. So that means we're going to go rectangle, subtract, circle. So we're going to go rectangle, subtract, circle. So my total is going to be 40.5 subtract 31.8. And that's going to give me my total. And that's going to be 8.7. Small amount, doesn't have to be large. So I have 8.7, use your units. DM is decimeters, DM squared. So 8.7. This is, on this question, we were subtracting. Okay, I'll give you a moment to write that down. There we go. Okay, H and I are very similar to what you guys have already seen. So if we take a look at H, you've already seen what H looks like. So this guy here, it's showing us that this much. It's showing us this much here is a 6. So the radius of the big one would be 10. So this would be a large subtract small or a big subtract small. On this one, you would have square subtract circle. Okay, that's what's going on with that one. So I'm not going to show you the double circle one because we've done that already, but I'll do the one on the right. So shape 1 is a square. If they only give you one number, it has to be a square. So that means this would be 3.5 on the other side, which means this square is a 7 by 7 all the way around. That's what that tells us. So the area of our square is going to be 7 times 7, which is 49 meters squared. Then we're going to do the area of the circle, which gives us r squared times pi. They're showing us r is 3.5 squared times pi. That's going to give us 38.5. So now we're going to take square and subtract circle. 49 subtract 38.5 leaves us 10.5 meters squared. I'll get you started on these ones. Area of the large circle, radius 10 squared times pi. Small circle is 4 squared times pi. You would get those answers and subtract. Any questions on those so far? This is a big lesson on just doing formulas and either adding them or subtracting them. So you've got to do the areas of certain parts, and then you're either adding those parts or you're subtracting them, depending on what's shaded. If you look at letter J, if I take that half circle that's shaded, take a look at J. Has everybody done the top two? Okay, take a look at J. If I remove this bottom and just shade it in right here, what kind of object is it without that bottom on it?
Square.
It's just a square. So if I remove the bottom part of the circle, if I remove that bottom part of a circle and I shade in the circle that I removed, all I'm finding is a square. So you only need to do one square. This one's a trick question. So you can put a star beside it. It's a trick question. Now, could you have done square, circle, and then subtract half a circle? Yeah, you could have. But that's a lot of steps. The easy way to do it is one square. which is just length times width, which is 4 times 4, to give us 16 centimeters squared. Now, how much do we have shaded on the circle to the right?
About a half of it.
Exactly. If you have 2 out of 4 squares shaded, that means half is shaded. So since half is shaded, we only need to find a circle and divide it by 2. So shape 1 is going to be a circle divide 2. So we're going to have radius squared times pi divide 2. And then we don't need a second object. So we won't need shape 2 down here or there. So my r is 3, so 3 squared times pi divide 2. So 3 squared times pi divide 2. We should get 14.1. 14.1 meters squared. All right, turn your page. All right. Okay, the one we're looking at right now for letter L is a half circle and a triangle. That's what it's showing us. And the number they're not showing you here is a 4, and that's the diameter. So D is 4. That's also the height of our triangle. So we have 2 shapes here. We have a triangle and a circle divided by 2. And then for our total, we're going to take circle plus triangle. So area of a triangle, base times height, divide 2. That's going to give us 4 times 2 divide 2, which is going to give us 4 meters squared. So our triangle is 4 meters squared. Now we're going to do the circle. So the circle is going to be r squared, 2 squared times pi, and we have a half circle, so we got to divide it by 2. Divide by 2 means we have a half circle. That's going to give us 6.3 meters squared. Now our total means add them together. That's going to give me 10.3 meters squared. And that's going to be them added together. Okay, 10.3 meters squared. All right, the guy on the right. The guy on the right is a square with a chunk out of it that is a quarter of a circle. So shape 1 will be a square, and then this guy's going to be a circle divided by 4 because it's a quarter of a circle. Okay, so on this one, the side length, if we add them together, is 15. So this guy, area of your square, is going to be 15 times 15. And that's going to give us 225 meters squared. Our answer is going to be square subtract circle. So far I know I've got 225 subtract something. They're telling me the radius of my circle. The radius is the 7. That's our radius. So we're going to have 7 squared times pi divide 4, because it's only a quarter of a circle. That's what the divide 4 means. And that's going to give us 38.5 meters squared. And that's going to give us a grand total of 186.5. Ty, your turn.
We're all-
Okay, letter N. If I drew a line straight down, the left-hand side that's shaded, I could shade that right here and remove it, and I would only have one shape, and that's going to be a half circle. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with, is just a half circle. So the 9 is the diameter. So if 9 is our diameter, that means radius is 4.5. Okay, 9.
Can you just go watch it?
So now we've got area of a circle, which is going to be 4.5 squared times pi, and then divide it by 2 because we only have a half. And that's going to give us 31.8. So 31.8 decameters squared. So 31.8 is what we get. That should be an 8.
Because this and this one makes a full.
That's right. Now on the next one, if we look at the next one, we've got a rectangle and we've got a full circle. The question is going to be for the shaded area, it's going to be rectangle, subtract circle. That's what we're going to be doing. Okay, this is going to give us length times width, and that's going to give me 20 times 25. And that's going to give me 500 centimeters squared. So far I know 500 centimeters squared is what I'm subtracting from.
I stuck.
Did it freeze? It froze. Okay. I'm just going to unfreeze it here. Hang on.
Can I go to the washroom?
Well,
I know. Chase, go.
Okay, Chase, go. I don't know. He always takes his time. Tell him to hurry the F up. Oh, I know. Okay, let's try this again. Hopefully it'll unfreeze. Okay. So far we know we've got 500 centimeters squared that we're subtracting from. Now we're going to do our circle, and it's a full circle. So if I've got 4.5 here and 4.5 there, that means I take 25 and subtract 9. 25 subtract 9 is going to give me 16. So that means this guy is 16 all the way across. So if 16 is the diameter of my circle, the radius is going to be 8. All right, so now I'm going to go 8 squared times pi. And that's going to give me 201.1. And that's what we're subtracting. So minus, oh boy. Okay. Okay, so 500 subtract 201.1 is going to give us 298.9. So 298. Oh, this silly machine. I don't want my keyboard. Hello. I don't know what it's doing. I don't know what it's doing. Whoa, okay. Whoa. I don't want that. Okay. See if it'll go down. Okay, hang on. It's not cooperating very well. Okay. 298.9. Okay, and the units are centimeters squared. Make sure you've got your units. It's centimeters squared. Okay, centimeters squared. Okay, turn your page. We've got a few left. Oh, geez. Okay, back at it, letter P. So we have another hexagon here. So since we're doing a hexagon, we need to do base times height. So area of the hexagon is equal to base times height times number of sides divided by 2. So we're going to get 8 times 7 times 6 sides divide 2. And that's going to give us 168 centimeters squared. Then we've got a circle inside that hexagon. So now we have to do area of our circle, which is going to be radius r squared times pi. So that's going to be 7 squared times pi. And that's going to give us 153.9. And now we want hexagon subtract circle to find the shaded area. So 168 subtract 153.9. And that's going to give us a ground total of 14.1 centimeters squared. Okay, so check your work. Make sure you've got all of your units. It is area, so we need to have our centimeters squared. So on the next one, there's a couple numbers missing, of course, because it's written and you can't see it. So that's a 2 meters right here for the side length of that. Here we've got 2.7. Right here is 2.7. All right, so in this case, we need area of the large hexagon, subtract area of the small hexagon, and that's what we're going to be doing. So shape 1, we want our large hexagon. Okay, so our height, so base times height, area of the large is going to be base, which is 4.5 times our height. If we add the height 1.3 and 2.7, we get 4. So times a height of 4 times 6 sides divided by 2. And that's going to give us an exact answer of 54 meters squared. Then we've got shape 2, which is a smaller hexagon, area of the small. So our base is 2 meters times the height, which is the 1.3, times 6 sides, divide 2. And so the area of the small is going to give us 7.8 meters squared. So now we've got the large, subtract the small to give us our total shaded area. And that's going to give us 46.2 meters squared. Okay, so check your work. Make sure you've got all your units. Okay, we're going to move down to the bottom 2 shapes on this page. When you take a look, we have a square on the left. It's showing us a 90-degree angle. That's basically telling us it's a square. So that means this is 1.8 over here and 1.8 on the bottom. So here we're going to have an area of a square subtract a circle. Because if we take all of these quarter circles, 4 of those quarter circles add up to 1 full circle. So shape 1 is going to be a square, which is 1.8 times 1.8. And that's going to give me 3.24 meters squared. Now I'm going to do the area of that circle. Now, if 1.8 is all the way across, that's our diameter. So we're going to cut that in half to have our radius. So 0.9 then will be the radius of the circle. So we're going to have 0.9 squared times pi. And that's going to give me 2.54 meters squared. So now we're going to take the large, 3.24, subtract the small, 2.54, and we're going to get an answer of 0.7. So 0.7 meters squared. That's how much is that shaded area that we see. All right, letter S on the next side. So they're showing us the height here, which would be the height running down on our triangle. So in this case, we're going to have a triangle and a half circle. So a circle divided by 2. So our triangle is going to be base times height divide 2. Our base is going to be 3 plus 3 plus 4. So our base is going to be 10 centimeters times 8 centimeters divide 2. So that's going to give us a total of 40 centimeters squared. To find the shaded area, we're going to need to go triangle, subtract circle. So we're going to have 40 centimeters squared, subtracting something now. So our circle's dividing by 2. Our diameter is 4. So that means radius is half of that. It's 2. So that means I'm going to have 2 squared times pi. And that's going to give me, and I only have a half circle though, so I still have to divide that by 2. So that's going to give me 6.3 centimeters squared. So now I'm taking 40 and subtracting 6.3. And that's going to give me a grand total of 33.7 centimeters squared. So 33.7 centimeters squared. Check your work. Make sure you're writing down all of your answers with your units. We've got 4 last objects, and then we're done with this lesson. It was a very giant lesson finding the shaded area. Okay, next page. So on this one, we have 3 different shapes. So on this one, we have a triangle, and the drawing is off of a little bit because this should be going all the way out to the side. So the triangle, the edge of the circle, and the triangle should meet like that. So that's what's going on there. So the part that we have that's shaded is the triangle and part of the square, or I guess it's a rectangle. So we've got a rectangle plus a triangle, subtract that circle that's not shaded. That's how we're going to find the total shaded area. So if my diameter is 8, that means my radius is 4. And that means this down here is 2 because 2 and 8 have to make 10. All right, and that means the height then is a 6, the height of that triangle. So shape 1, we're going to do the rectangle. So length times width, 8 times 6, we're going to have 48 kilometers squared. Then we're going to have shape 2, which is our circle, and that's going to be radius 4 squared times pi. So your circle, not 4 squared, your radius is 3, not 4. Because if we take a look, the radius of it, the diameter is 6, so the radius would be 3. We're not using that 8 because that 8 has 2 centimeters extra there. So the diagram is off, as we know. So that means that we're talking about the width of our circle, which would be 6. So that means radius is 3. So 3 squared times pi is going to give me 28.3 kilometers squared. My third shape is my triangle, and that's going to give me base 2 times height 6 divide 2. Well, that's just 6. So the triangle is 6 kilometers squared. And now to find our total shaded area, I put it on the top here. So our rectangle is 48 plus our triangle, which is 6. Subtract the circle of 28.3. And that's going to give us our shaded area, which gives us 25.7 kilometers squared. Okay, so we're adding the two, triangle and rectangle, and we are subtracting the circle. Okay, let's take a look at the next question right beside us. The next question right beside us, we're going to see that we have two different triangles. So if I were to draw a line right here, we have a large triangle on the outside right here like this with that pink line. And then we have that teeny triangle on the inside, that little baby triangle, which is right here. Okay? So what we're going to do is shape 1 is going to be the large triangle and shape 2 is going to be the small triangle. So our shaded area is going to be the large subtract the small. So our large triangle, our base times height divide 2. So our base is 4. Our height is going to be both of these added together, which is 8. And then divide 2. So that's going to give us 16 centimeters squared. So I know up here I'm having a 16 centimeters squared. Finish tomorrow? You're done? Okay. Bye. You're welcome. And shape 2, now we're doing a small one. The small one here, we can see the height is 3. That's what they're showing us there. That's why they gave us that number. So here we're going to have a base of 4 still, times that height of 3, and then divide 2. So that's going to give me 12 divide 2 is 6 centimeters squared. So you're going to have 16 subtract 6 gives us 10 centimeters squared. So 10 centimeters squared is our total shaded area for those triangles. Okay, our last two in this lesson. On the bottom here, we're going to take a look at the guy on the left. So the guy on the left is one giant rectangle, and then we have a small rectangle here that we're going to cut out it. So we're going to have a large rectangle, and we're going to have a small rectangle. So my large rectangle is going to be 6 times 12, and that's going to give me 72 centimeters squared. Then I go to my small rectangle. Now my small rectangle, I know I have a 4, but what's that little ticky? Well, if I know this whole thing is a 6 and it's divided into 3 parts, that means each part is a 2. So that's a 2, that's a 2, that's a 2. So that means my small rectangle is a 2 times 4. Well, that gives us 8 centimeters squared. So our shaded area is going to be the large subtract the small. So that's going to give us 72 subtract 8, which is 64 centimeters squared. Okay, so 64 centimeters squared. Okay, that didn't turn out very well when I made that little rectangle. All right, so that was our final answer, 64 centimeters squared. All right, last example, another yin-yang. Well, this little dotted part right here, that shaded part is the same size as that white shaded part here. So really, we only have one shape, and it's a half of a circle. So it's a circle divided by 2. So our circle is r squared times pi divide 2. So the r is 1.5. So 1.5 squared times pi divide 2. And that's going to give us a grand total of 3.5 meters squared. So our total shaded area is 3.5 meters squared. Thank you, and this concludes lesson 4.2b of finding the shaded area.